right, hello everyone, good evening, and welcome into a Friday edition of KC Sports Tonight. I am Mark Poulose, joined by Neal Jones as we set the table for the big weekend ahead in sports. Neal, how you doing heading into the weekend here? How you doing?
I am doing good. You weren't here yesterday. Katie got sick, and so it was Marlia and me, and I'm the one that she sent out into the rain and lightning storm to do live shots. Couldn't get my phone to work for most of the day. But when I came back, she looked really good. She'd been dry and everything. It was great.
Well, if there's one thing I know about you, excuse me, is that you are resilient. So I'm glad that you soldiered through that to go to a big press conference there for us and cover that. But all right, here we go. We're going to start with our first topic of conversation. It has to do with the Kansas City Chiefs. Today, a report came out from ESPN's Adam Schefter where it said that defensive line coach Joe Cullen interviewed for the defensive coordinator spot out there in the Washington Commanders. So, Neal, kind of want to go a little bit bigger picture here. We've seen some guys go out places and take interviews. Matt Nagy's gone and interviewed. Steve Spagnuolo's been rumored to interview. Now Joe Cullen is interviewing the Chiefs. Should they blow it up? What's going on here?
What's going on is it's what happens every year at this time. People get they do an interview. Sometimes a team will interview somebody because I've got a buddy. It's like when you know, if you in television, well, we'll interview somebody. If Mark goes to the news director and says, I've got this friend who wants to apply for a job in news or as a meteorologist or to replace Neal Jones, who will soon be fired, then you might take the interview as a favor or as a, just to pay their respects for somebody, but you have no intention of hiring them. You never know what these things are. Joe Cullen has done a good job on the defensive line. He's respected. Steve Spagnuolo and he work very, very well together. And this is not a story because he didn't interview for a defensive line position. He interviewed for the defensive coordinator's position. And in the NFL, it's what you do. When you're here and you want to move up, well, you got to interview for jobs. I hope he gets it. Good for him. He's a nice guy. Every time I've ever interviewed him, he seemed very nice. But the bigger question, though, is should the Chiefs blow it up? Blow up the coaching staff. You're a lot less inclined to blow up the roster for the simple reason that they don't have a lot of money under the cap. They've got to massage that cap number and get it down under what it's going to. We don't know where it's going to be exactly next year. So to me, the bigger issue are the coordinators. That's a big story. But the other guys, I think you can probably. That's not as big a story. And for people who want to blow it up, Mark, I think, did people forget that 2 years ago, this team won the Super Bowl for a second straight year, and now those coaches can't coach anymore? They forgot how to coach?
And Andy Reid last year was a Coach of the Year finalist, although and what's crazy is that he has never won the award in his long and illustrious career. But, Neal, for me, the reason I think Joe Cullen interviewing in Washington is so newsworthy is I know it's obviously for a higher job. Like he's a D-line coach here, be for a D coordinator position there. But to me, it seems like that maybe there could be some staff change here in Kansas City. Like if Steve Spagnuolo were to leave, maybe potentially become a head coach, would the Chiefs want to promote from within? Would that be a guy like Joe Cullen? Or if Steve Spagnuolo is leaving, does maybe Joe Cullen, is he preemptively looking for a landing spot for a new job? Because if Spagnuolo was to leave and the Chiefs were to bring in a new defensive coordinator, I would imagine that D coordinator would want to pick his own position coaches. Neal, what do you kind of make of maybe a potential if the Chiefs were to add new coordinators this year? Would we see a big change under the staff, or would Andy Reid maybe pick guys that he's worked with before?
Look, if the defensive staff, if Steve Spagnuolo is given another chance to be a head coach in the NFL, and he leaves, it would trust me, it would materially affect the Chiefs franchise. We talked about this last week a little bit, I think, and I'm not sure it was with you, but the Chiefs started winning Super Bowls not when Andy Reid came to town. They started winning Super Bowls when Andy Reid hired Steve Spagnuolo to fix the defensive side of the football. Andy Reid very famously does the offense, and he wants somebody who is basically the head coach of the defense. That's what he wants. I don't want to worry about defense, is what he says. Right? I want to focus on what I do best, and that is coach quarterbacks and draw up offensive plays and set the offensive parameters and run the offense. I want a right-hand man, somebody I trust 100% to take over on defense. When he did that in Philadelphia and he had a great coach, then he went to 4 straight NFC championship games. When that coach Coach Johnson passed away from cancer, he suddenly had problems, and they started losing. And the the coordinator he hired, it didn't work out in the same way. Jim Johnson had been an unbelievable coordinator, and we saw what happened. Andy Reid, that wasn't the only reason he lost his job in Philadelphia, but trust me, the job done on the defensive side of the football was a big part of it. He comes here, he turns the offense around immediately, brings in Alex Smith, draws up a completely different offense than what they've been doing. He goes out and gets them in the playoffs in year one. What held him back? The defense. Bob Sutton was his defensive coordinator, a really good guy, like him a lot, but he was not Steve Spagnuolo. They started winning big when he brought Steve Spagnuolo in, who solidified the defensive side of the football. And the next thing you know, they go to multiple Super Bowls. They win multiple Super Bowls. It's not by accident that started happening when you had a great offensive coach and a defensive coordinator who was at the top of his game. So if Steve Spagnuolo leaves, it will change his football team. Would he look from within? I don't know. But I have to believe he's going to try to go out and get somebody. His history is he gets guys he's worked with and who he respects and has a relationship with. He's big on that. I think he's big on loyalty. And so I think if Steve Spagnuolo gets a job, he's going to try to hire somebody who he's worked with before. And if it's somebody on the staff, it might be, then I think he'll do that. But on the offensive side, if Matt Nagy, I love Coach Nagy. I wish him the best. I hope he gets a head coaching job. I hope he gets that Titans job. But the reality is, as long as Andy Reid's there, there's going to be a continuity on the offensive side of the football, and it really doesn't matter who his position coaches are. They're going to be working from his playbook.
Yeah, certainly something to monitor as the rest of the offseason.
But I'm going to ask you, should they blow it up? Should this franchise, are they the point? They've lost their last 6 games. They were very competitive. They had a plus in terms of plus minus. They were plus 34 on points. They were 1-9 in one-score games. 1-9. That's like one of the worst records in the last 50 years in the NFL. So to me, they are real close to being really good. They just didn't get it done. So I ask you, should they blow it up?
Well, I think you did a really good job of dividing this problem, because I think on one side of the ball, you absolutely will need to blow it up if the coordinator leaves. On the other side of the ball, you won't. On offense, just as you said, the Chiefs have Andy Reid. Andy Reid runs the offense. Andy Reid knows what he wants. He knows how he wants it to look. He will pick those guys. Now, but just as you said, on the other side of the ball, with Andy Reid being that CEO type of the offense, he wants that CEO of the defense. If his CEO of the defense leaves, he's going to want to find a new CEO of that defense. Now, I really like what you said. Is it probably going to be a young hotshot guy? No, because I don't think that's how Andy Reid operates. Andy Reid, he respects longevity. He respects what you've done in the National Football League. So I'd expect if Spagnuolo were to leave, he would hire another, established defensive coordinator on that side of the ball, or at least someone that had been in the league for a long time, as you said, that he's maybe struggled against, someone that he has respect for, someone that he's worked with in the past. So I think when we talk about blowing it up, it's a question on what side of the ball. On offense, I just don't think they'll do it, even though the fans want it. And on defense, it will depend on if Spags gets a new job, but that's something we're going to have to wait and see. What do you think?
Which side needs to be tweaked more? If we're not talking about a blow-up, I think we can all agree that they need to tweak things. I mean, there was a reason they didn't win games down the stretch.
Yeah.
It wasn't a single reason. It would be much easier if it was a single reason. Well, they couldn't defend the pass. Oh, they couldn't get after the quarterback. Oh, they were missing a bunch of field goals. Or they had breakdowns in special teams. Or the offense was turning the ball over. It was all of those things. It wasn't one thing. Every one of those things you can look at. Last season, they won all those close games. They won everybody. They blocked field goals. They made clutch field goals. They forced turnovers to win games. They got key fourth down stops to win games. On offense, they scored late points. They had drives to set up Butker, who then kicked field goals. Every way you could win games last year, they won games until the Super Bowl. Every way you can lose games this year, they did it. So it's not as easy as saying, wow, they kept dropping passes. We need to get a different wide receiver coach, and they got to get to work on that. No, they dropped passes. Patrick Mahomes threw bad balls. You had that great shot of the game you shot in Denver of Patrick Mahomes underthrowing a receiver by 10 yards in the open. He wasn't. in the pocket. He's running free. The guy's in front of him. There's a defender between here, and he throws it basically right to the defender. Remember the play we're talking about?
I think it was to Xavier Worthy or Tyquan Thornton. It was a deep ball coming towards us, and he just didn't get it there. To me, though, I think it's funny because it's the side that we're not going to blow up. It's the offense, and it's not necessarily that I think that is broken, but I think there's just been a lot of brain drain in that department. There's been a lot of promoting from within. There's been a lot of keeping the same names in the fold, and I think maybe what the Chiefs need on that side of the ball is an injection of some new ideas. I mean, we talk about how the Chiefs really struggled in the run this year, and I know a lot of fans go online and a lot of fans talk about this, and we don't like to maybe legitimize that conversation, but the Chiefs, they could not run the ball with Patrick Mahomes under center. They chose not to do that, and I think the Chiefs have gone maybe the run game in the NFL might have passed the Chiefs by.
They did add a little bit late in the season. They put the quarterback under center and let him in certain situations have a true, like a running back coming in, going downhill instead of that read, the
finesse run. Well, that's what I was trying to talk. Like the Chiefs, I really want to see them at least. They need to bring some power back to the offense. So much of this is let's drop back, let's pass, let's use speed, let's use finesse. We're going to scheme guys open, but at a certain point, football is a violent game. Football is about winning your one-on-one matchup. Can you do that with speed? Can you do that with finesse? Yes, but can you do it easily with power? Yes, and the Chiefs have really lost a lot of the power, at least to me, on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball. Like the offensive line, to me, when was the last time we saw the Chiefs' offensive line impose their will on a defensive line in the NFL?
You're talking about running the football?
Yeah, with running the football, establishing that and just running the other team over, and the other team not wanting to tackle the Chiefs players. Like every time we see the teams play the Chiefs, like they're so excited to play the Chiefs on defense, at least recently, I would say. So I want to see the Chiefs physically dominate a team. And we haven't seen that in recent years. So maybe if they get some new coaches in there, new mentality, we can see something like that.
Well, Andy Reid's, it's going to be his offense. People have talked about bringing in Cliff Kingsbury, who got fired as offensive coordinator with the Commanders. And he had a good run there. He was not a successful offensive coordinator when he took over as head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. And I think part of that was he was trying to be a head coach in the NFL for the first time, and he was also trying to doctor up that offense. When he was able to focus on offense as the OC in Washington, they had good numbers. The reason that he had problems this year was his quarterback got hurt. It's as simple as that.
The reason the Chiefs, you could say they had problems this year, just at the end of the season, neither of their tackles had played high school football. Like, yeah. I mean,
they haven't. The tackles for the Chiefs have been a disappointment for 4 years, basically. And they never really solved it.
No, they tried, but they whiffed. Wanye was a third-round pick. He's not good. Like Kingsley Suamatia, they drafted him in second round to be a tackle. He's not. It hasn't worked out.
Right. There's no question that they whiffed at tackle. They tried to keep Orlando Brown, and Orlando Brown, for whatever reason, didn't accept the deal, took an offer that was basically the same thing to go to Cincinnati. Who knows why? But he was a guy that was at least a professional tackle. And the right tackle, they signed a guy who was Jawan Taylor, who had been a good player and who was a veteran. He'd proven himself, and he's a good right tackle. And what we saw here was, and I've heard this from so many former players, saying the guy's lazy, he got the big payday, and he quit working. And that's when he started doing the real. He was really adept at really getting off the ball quickly with that kick step. And then finally he got lazy and he started going early. And he got lazy, started setting up deeper and deeper and deeper. And how many times did we see him called this year for lining up off the line of scrimmage? Mm-hmm. I mean, and they paid him big time money based on what he had done. And that was a real failure. It's not the kind of thing that media people go crazy over. We focus on quarterbacks and wide receivers and running backs. You don't really worry too much about right tackles, but boy, did that end up being a horrible deal because he was too expensive to cut. They will cut him now, I'm sure. He was too expensive to cut, too much dead money in the cap, but he was not a good player. Andy Reid kept trotting him out, and the guy, I think what Coach Reid said was, when he doesn't get penalized, he's a good player. Well, the problem was he was the most penalized right tackle in football as of about 4 or 5 weeks ago. I haven't checked since then, but going into it, he was the most penalized right tackle in all of football, all professional football. Their tackles have let them down. It has created problems for Patrick Mahomes. He's had to run way, way too much, run for his life, not just to run, but to try to stay alive, keep plays alive. And it really, in my opinion, that was the beginning of the end of this offense. You can have all the great speed guys you want, but if you can't hold the ball long enough to throw it deep because you're getting rushed all the time, you got nothing.
Yeah, trench play really hurt the Chiefs on both sides of the ball this year, but we'll see. Hey, they got a top 10 draft pick this year. We'll see maybe if they address that and how they want to move on. But, hey, we got to move on here also. We got to talk about some college football. Now, Neal Jones, the great Neal Jones right here, notified me of this before the season. Long time, and maybe the voice, I would consider the voice of the Southeastern Conference. Paul Feinbaum said he would move out of the country if an SEC team did not win the college football national championship. Well, it looks like Paul Feinbaum is going to have to pack his bags, get his passport, because for the third year in a row, no SEC team will win the college football national championship. Last night, my Miami Hurricanes beat the Ole Miss Rebels 31-27 to punch their ticket to the Orange Bowl. The national championship being played, actually, I guess it's not the Orange Bowl, but it's being played at the Orange Bowl. The college football national championship being played down in Miami, Florida tonight. On the other side, Oregon and Indiana dueling for that matchup, the other spot. Now, Neal, Oregon is coached by Kansas City native Dan Lanning. Can you tell me a little bit about his kind of connection and growing up here in the Metro?
He was born in Kansas City, North Kansas City, but he didn't grow up here. He grew up, I believe, in Richmond. And then his first coaching job was at Park Hill South High School, where he was a special teams coordinator and wide receiver coach and all that stuff. And he began his career. Greg Jones, the guy who was a great head coach, won state championships at Kearney. Then he kind of built the Liberty North program. Then he went off and coached some college football for a couple of years, including 1 year at Oregon with Dan Lanning. They worked together, and it was Coach Jones who kind of brought, Lanning was a young guy. He told the head coach, this guy's going to be a star. Have you seen him working? You need to keep an eye on this guy. This guy's going to be unbelievable. And boy, he's turned out to be an unbelievable coach. He kind of made his name. He, as a graduate assistant at the University of Alabama under Nick Saban, learned a lot. And then he became a very good linebacker coach and assistant coach. He's been on a recruiting coordinator in the SEC. Because he's really a dynamic guy. Everybody who's ever met him talks about how dynamic he is. He's real cocky and he can be kind of a jerk and abrasive, but a lot of times he's right. And he's the one who last week or the week before last floated something that I think a lot of people around the country are rallying behind, and that is we've got to play football and wrap up the season with the New Year's Day bowl games. If it's January 2nd because we don't want to play on a Sunday, fine. But we got to wrap it up at the end of the season. And if that means not go into January, not because now you were watching, your team played last night on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
That's not a traditional college. I asked my wife last night, do you want to watch the college game? And she goes, no, not really. It's a Thursday. I'm not really thinking about that.
And I also think one of the best points that he made about that is how the transfer portal is impacted right now, because now 3 teams left, but all 4, including in the semifinals, had to deal with portal defections in the midst of a playoff run. Like I know Miami.
Yeah.
There was a kid that would have played for us last night. He's like our 3rd or 4th.
It's not us. You're a journalist.
Our defensive tackle.
Not that played.
I did not
for
play
them.
a snap. I did not play a snap. You're correct. But he wanted to transfer for more playing time and left the team in the middle of the playoff run. Last night there was an injury. Like he would have got in the game, but he didn't. And
he had to transfer because
of the
does
clock, because of the calendar. I mean.
Yeah, because second semester starts.
Yeah.
At these schools. So Lanning's idea is
golden.
Have that at the end of the New Year's Day bowl game. That's the championship game. That's when the new season starts. Now you can transfer. Coaches can leave.
Yep.
You can hire coaches. They don't have the early signing period. And basically have some brains. Use some brains. It's got to happen. It's gotten worse and worse and worse. When you have 2 teams enter the playoffs and they don't have their head coach because they've taken jobs elsewhere, I mean, it's ridiculous. The fact that Ole Miss, they didn't have their entire complement of coaches.
I'm glad that you brought that up, and because we have to give a shout out to a former St. Pius X Warrior, Charlie Weiss Jr., who is obviously splitting time between LSU, where he's going to be the offensive coordinator for Lane Kiffin, but he was also the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss. Had been there for 4 years. He had recruited all the offensive players on that roster. Talk about a guy. I mean, Ole Miss played one heck of a game last night, had a tremendous game plan, scored more points on Miami than anybody all season. So I want to give a local shout out to St. Pius X alum Charlie Weiss Jr. for splitting duties there. But
and Coach Weiss might be getting ready for a national championship game if the officials had not swallowed the whistle on what was an obvious.
There were multiple.
I hate
calls.
Ole Miss.
Yeah,
I don't want Ole Miss to win, but that was a pass
Neal,
interference.
You are an athlete, and you can never leave the game in the hands of the officials. Neal, also, how long have you covered football? How long? 4 decades.
That's how
decades.
That's how I got in the business.
Yeah. How many Hail Marys have you seen at the end of the game? How many flags have you seen called on a Hail Mary at the end of the game? I couldn't believe this discourse afterwards. These Ole Miss fans, crybabies. I mean,
Mark, it looked like it was a penalty.
There have been the forward pass has been around for like 100 years. This is what it looks like at the end of the game, and they never call that at the end of the game. I couldn't believe that. And besides the fact that former Miami cornerback Chris Graves for Ole Miss tackled several of our wide receivers for uncalled pass interference. I donate to the program, baby. I'm a booster. I'm saying ours. I'm an investor in this program.
Okay, I have one question. We all saw the pictures of you. Most of us have seen the pictures of you. You painted yourself with the U emblem on your chest. Did you go shirtless at your house last night and subject your wife to that as you watched the game? Did you paint your face and everything?
I did not, but I did wear an old Miami Hurricanes jersey, and then after the game, I did cry. And my wife does have video of that.
You cried?
I cried. Maybe we'll show it on KC Sports tonight. Neal, this whole playoff run has been bringing tears to my eyes. When the Miami Hurricanes, because we didn't know if we were going to get to the playoffs, it was us against Notre Dame for that final spot. I was sitting there before I was coming into work on a Saturday or the Sunday. They had the college football playoff selection show. The last spot, number 10, the orange and green flashed on the screen, and tears flooded into my eyes. You have no idea how much that meant to me. And look what's happened. They didn't think we belonged in the playoff, and now we're playing for a national title. That's what it's all about.
How much have you enjoyed the SEC falling flat on its face? And this is not aimed at the University of Missouri. Missouri's in the SEC, and my school's in the SEC. But
no, I love that you brought this up.
I think it's pretty funny.
Because hold on, I'll bring up the statistics here. But I know the SEC commissioner Greg Sankey, like he was advocating before the playoff. The SEC got 5 teams in the playoff, I believe, this year. He wanted 7 SEC teams in the playoff.
Well, Vanderbilt and Texas should have been in, is what he was saying.
Yeah. Here are the conference records through the Fiesta Bowl. The ACC 9-4, the Big 10 9-4, the Big 12 4-4, the SEC, the Southeastern Conference, who proclaims themselves to be the best conference in America, 4-10, and 2 of those wins are by the SEC against SEC teams.
Yeah, over SEC teams.
The SEC has only won 2 bowl games against non-SEC opponents this year, and the proof is where it is. The SEC is a fraud. I have been going on this. 10 years ago, the SEC had an advantage, is that they could give you $40,000 and a grocery bag sack under the table. But now every team can pay millions of dollars to these players, and now the talent is spread around the country.
And
so the SEC
Lord knows, Miami never cheated back in the 80s.
We have one of the best NIL programs
They
in the
never
country.
cheated. Miami never cheated. I mean, all the rappers and everybody down in South Beach they were flashing dollars and stuff. The Miami guys turned it down, didn't they?
Just real men of character, honor, and integrity that helped us win 5
championships. Is that honor with an O or an H?
6th, baby. Yeah. All right. Hey, it's college football. You know how it is. It is what it is. That's why we love the sport, and there's a lot going on there. But we have about 6 minutes left. We have 3 topics to talk about. One of them right here, a splash hire right here in the Metro. The Lee Summit North Broncos have hired a big-time guy to be the next head football coach out there. His name is DeMonte Cross. He was the defensive coordinator at the University of Missouri from 2016 to 2017. Neal, this is a program that I would say—
Where did he play?
He played at the University of Missouri, and he is from St. Louis, although I believe he started his college career at Illinois. But, Neal, this is a guy, he was a college D coordinator Now he's a high school head coach. What do you think about that?
I think it's very exciting, and I love it when people work with high school kids or junior high kids, boys and girls, because I think it helps kids. It helps the next generation.
Amen.
He understands, look, the chances of you playing D1 or Division II football, pretty slight. But the chances of you learning from football and having a good experience and making yourself a better student and a better person who works hard and understands, unlike your generation who expects everything to be spoon-fed to them, I'm teasing, but I think
that's Gen Z now. They passed from that pass from millennials, I think, to Gen Z. So I'm in the clear. I'm an old guy now.
Oh yeah,
got these gray hairs right.
But I am very excited for him to be able to do this, and I think it'll help the kids. That's a program that has had great players, has had really good players. They had a real problem this year. Their head coach was suspended and then ultimately fired. A team that a lot of people thought had a chance to be the best, most talented team, not just on that side of the state line, but maybe in the whole Kansas City area. And they kind of crashed and burned. I think because they basically had 3 head coaches. They had an interim coach, and then he left. So it was a really tough situation over there. I'm glad that the kids are going to get a guy who's a proven head coach or a proven coach. So I think it's very exciting.
Yeah, certainly a proud program and a big-time hire. Excited to see what he can accomplish out there at Lee Summit North. Definitely a lot of quality players there. Now, all right, 2 more topics. Next one, MLB commissioner the other day, Rob Manfred, kind of floated out an idea of MLB realignment with the American and National Leagues replaced by an East and West division. Now, obviously, none of this is final, but Neal, what's going on here?
It would be 8 different 4-team divisions. They would expand to 32 teams, and then they would have 8 4-team divisions, just like the NFL. But they would play the East and West, and so you would primarily play everything in the East or everything in the West, so that the time zones were the same and that everybody could do it and all that stuff. It would erase the National League and the American League. He didn't mention whether or not they were going to continue to keep the rules the same. Probably not, since under his watch they've changed everything else. I think he wants to get it done by 26. His period in office ends after 2026. I think he's full of garbage. I don't like the idea. I think that he's a well-meaning person who has some stupid ideas. Our editor back there, Rusty, said, quote, "If you love New Coke, you'll love this."
Oh, that's a
And what was the other one, Rusty, you had? Oh, yeah. If you love Dennis Miller on Monday Night Football, a wild idea that didn't work, you'll love this. I think it's right up there with the tuck rule, NFL tuck rule.
Yeah, this is horrible. I mean, I was just thinking about this just now. Like, imagine if you lived on the East Coast and you wanted to see Shohei Ohtani. It just wouldn't get to happen. Or it's just this baseball already struggles with being such a regional sport where you only care about your team and you really don't know anything about anybody else.
Well, there's not a national telecast.
Yeah, if they did this, I think it would be even worse. So let's hope that, obviously, I mean, baseball, one of the best things about it is all the traditions. They've been doing this for more than 100 years. We don't need to change this. All right, we have a little bit of time here, so we got to end it with Neal's Pop Quiz. That's what we do here at KCTV5. We do the fact check. We have a great investigations department. We hold people accountable.
Wait. We have facts?
Yeah, we have facts, big time, right here, especially on KC Sports Tonight. But Neal, a little more than a week ago, you told me it was your New Year's resolution to be a little less angry and do some...
No, I said I was going to be nice to my coworkers.
Oh, I thought it was nice to your wife and kids. So what I want to say is, what have you done for them in the new year?
No, I didn't involve my wife and kids. I try to be nice to them and loving to them all the time, and I don't throw stuff at them like I do you occasionally. My goal was to be nicer to my coworkers, and I think most of my coworkers would say that I'm nicer. Vince is back there. Vince, have I been nicer? No, he says I.
No.
He said
Rusty
no.
No.
Well, there's the weather guy. There's.
Who is it, Warren?
Yeah, Warren Sears. Warren, am I nicer?
Over.
It's Pasquatch. He says I'm nicer. Yeah, he gives me a big thumbs up.
There you go, Neal Jones holding the people accountable. But all right, maybe that's your challenge for the next week. So now you've been nice to your coworkers.
I
want
want
something nice for your wife and kids. It's a Friday night. You could take her out for dinner. Do something.
I've been nice to you.
Yeah, you have.
I have been nice to you.
He's been cheering on the Canes during the playoff run, which is something that I did not expect.
No, I'm happy for them. I think they are kind of an underdog story, and I think the fact that I think it's nice they proved they deserve to be in the playoff.
That's right. Hey, we're going to see who's going to join them in the college.
What are you
football
doing tonight at 10
championship
o'clock?
We're going to have some highlights from a local high school basketball game, an update on Darren Peterson. We're going to also talk about Dan Landing's connection to this local college football playoff game. All of that coming up tonight at 10. But we will also see you over the air tomorrow night and on Sunday, 10:35 p.m. We will see you there. All right, guys, take care.